Imagine waking up tomorrow and not needing anyone to approve of you, not your friends, not your boss, not even the people who once made you doubt your worth. Imagine the freedom of walking through your life with your head high, not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you know exactly who you are and what you stand for. You don't bend your voice to fit the room. You don't swallow your truth just to keep the peace. You speak with clarity, act with purpose, and walk with integrity, even if no one notices. Especially if no one notices. But let me ask you something real. How much of your life has been shaped by the fear of not being liked? How many times have you traded your peace just to avoid disappointing someone else? We don't always see it happening, because the world teaches us early that to belong, we have to please. To be loved, we have to perform. But at some point, we stop living our lives and start auditioning for them. The Stoics warned us about this. Real growth begins the moment you stop letting public opinion shape your private decisions. That's what this video is about. The moment you stop chasing approval and start earning real respect. Not the loud kind, the quiet kind. The kind that's built in silence, under pressure, through boundaries, and with truth. And if you're ready to stop performing and start becoming, then consider subscribing. Because every small step you take toward living with clarity and principle is a step away from noise, and a step toward a life you can actually stand behind. Have you ever said yes when it grows louder in the quiet moments? It shows up when you're alone, when the clapping has stopped and the masks come off. It reminds you of everything you've traded just to be accepted. And here's the thing no one tells you. People-pleasing doesn't even guarantee peace. You can be agreeable, polite, thoughtful, and still be disliked. You can shrink yourself down to fit into someone else's comfort zone, and they might still walk away. Because approval isn't love. Approval isn't truth. Approval is conditional. It changes with moods, with perceptions, with misunderstandings. Respect, on the other hand, is something else entirely. Respect is not always comfortable, but it's stable. It's not earned through agreement, it's earned through alignment. But let's be honest, it's hard to let go of the need to be liked. It's hard because approval often looks like love, and rejection often feels like abandonment. Especially if you grew up believing that being accepted meant being safe. So, you learned to perform, to read the room, to say the right thing, to avoid friction. You became a master of emotional diplomacy, but inside, you started to disappear. Because when your voice is shaped more by others' comfort than your own convictions, your identity becomes hollow. As the philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once said, the most common form of despair is not being who you are. And what's worse, it's addictive. Approval can feel like a drug. Every compliment becomes a hit of validation. Every like, every nod, every kind word feeds the illusion that you're okay, until someone disapproves and it all comes crashing down. You start chasing it, adjusting yourself to get it again. You start asking, what should I say to be accepted? How should I act to avoid conflict? But these questions lead you away from yourself. They replace truth with strategy, presence with performance. There's a moment in every person's life when they realize the applause they've been chasing doesn't mean what they thought it did. It's fleeting, it's fickle, and it's often given in exchange for conformity, not authenticity. And in that moment, if you're brave, you begin to ask a new question. Who am I without the performance? What would it look like to stop chasing approval and start standing in truth? Epictetus said, if you want to be free, then learn to live without the admiration of others. That's the core of freedom. Not doing whatever you want, but being rooted enough in yourself that you don't need others to tell you who you are. Of course, letting go of approval doesn't mean becoming careless or cruel. It doesn't mean rejecting others just to prove a point. It means living from a place of principle rather than pressure. It means knowing your values and letting them guide your actions, not the latest opinion or passing emotion. It means having the courage to be disliked for the right reasons rather than being liked for the wrong ones. That's not rebellion, that's responsibility. And it's not easy, because people will question you. They'll say you've changed. They'll accuse you of being selfish. But that's only because they've grown comfortable with the version of you that served their needs, not yours. When you stop performing, people who benefited from the act will feel threatened. That's okay. Their discomfort isn't your failure. It's part of the process. Real respect is quiet. It's not flashy. It often comes after the noise dies down and the boundaries are clear. But here's the beauty of it. When you stop needing approval, the relationships that remain are rooted in something far deeper: mutual understanding, honesty, and trust. You stop wasting energy on proving yourself and start investing in being yourself. And that changes everything. You make decisions faster, you speak more clearly, you walk with more calm. Not because life gets easier, but because you've stopped editing yourself for every room you walk into. There's a strength that grows in silence, in saying no without guilt, in speaking your mind without apology. That strength doesn't come from fighting others. It comes from not fighting yourself. And once you've tasted that kind of freedom, no amount of approval can replace it. You begin to feel what real power is, not the kind that dominates, but the kind that doesn't waver, the kind that listens, thinks, and chooses, not out of fear, but out of alignment. Carl Jung once wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. But it's also the most liberating, because once you do, you realize something profound. The world doesn't need your performance. It needs your presence. It doesn't need another agreeable echo. It needs your grounded truth, even if it's quiet, even if it's not always understood, even if it stands alone. You weren't born to fit in. You were born to stand firm, to live with purpose, to act with integrity, and to build a life that doesn't depend on applause to feel worthy. So the next time you feel that pull, the pull to shrink, to soften, to be liked, pause and ask yourself, what am I trading for this approval? And is it worth it? Because the truth is, nothing feels more like home than being yourself. And once you build that home, you won't need to seek shelter in anyone else's approval ever again. You try so hard to be what you think they'll accept. You shift your tone, you soften your opinions, you become easier to be around. You adjust and filter and accommodate, hoping it will earn you a place in someone's world. You tell yourself it's compromise, that it's maturity, that it's love. But deep down, a quiet voice keeps asking, if they like this version of me, do they even know me at all? It's a painful question, because it forces you to confront something few people want to face. Sometimes, even your best performance doesn't get you the role. Even when you try to be exactly what someone seems to want, gentle, low maintenance, agreeable, they can still walk away. And that doesn't just sting, it cuts in a different way, because it's not just rejection, it's the realization that you weren't even showing your full self, and it still wasn't enough. What you feel in that moment isn't just heartbreak, it's exposure. You're left wondering if maybe you should have shown more of yourself, or less, or something different altogether. The rejection hits the version of you that was carefully edited for their approval. It wasn't real, but it was honest in its effort. And that's what hurts. You offered something polished, something tailored, something safe, and they still turned away. So what now? If even your best performance isn't accepted, then what's left? That's the problem with tying your worth to someone's reaction. It makes your identity fragile. It makes you second-guess your every step. One wrong word, one cold look, and suddenly you're spiraling, not because of them, but because you built your sense of self on sand. This is the illusion of acceptance. It feels warm and secure, but it's conditional. It often depends on you keeping up the image, the tone, the energy that others prefer. And when that energy shifts, even slightly, so does the connection. It's not acceptance, it's approval masquerading as love. Carl Jung once said, "The greatest tragedy of the family is the unlived lives of the parents." But this isn't just about family. It's about all the spaces where people bury themselves to meet expectations, where you lose your aliveness just to be accepted. And then the acceptance disappears anyway, and you're left without them and without yourself. When you perform for too long, something strange happens. You forget what your actual voice sounds like. You begin to confuse your preferences with theirs. You hesitate before speaking, not to gather your thoughts, but to edit them. You dress your truth up in softer words. You censor your instincts. And over time, that habit becomes your identity. You think, "I'm just easygoing," or "I don't mind," when in reality, you've just forgotten what you do want, what you do believe, and where your lines actually are. The danger isn't just that others don't see you, it's that you stop seeing yourself. And when it ends, when someone leaves, pulls back or stops trying, you're not just dealing with absence, you're unraveling, because now you're asking, if this didn't work, then what would have? You wonder if maybe you should have tried harder, maybe you were too much, or not enough. But those are the wrong questions, because the real pain isn't that you were rejected, it's that you were rejected while hiding. You didn't even get to find out if your real self would have been accepted, and now it's too late. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Never esteem anything as of advantage to you that will make you break your word or lose your self-respect." And yet, how many of us trade self-respect for attention? How often do we call it connection when really it's performance? Real acceptance doesn't require constant effort. It doesn't punish you for slipping out of character. It doesn't vanish when you have a bad day, or speak your mind, or simply say no. Real acceptance makes room for you, not just the shiny, easy parts, but the rough edges too. But here's what we miss when we're stuck in this illusion. Performing doesn't protect you from rejection, it just delays it. It stretches out the suffering. Because even if they stay for a while, they're not staying with the real you. And deep down, you know it. You feel it in the anxiety that bubbles up after every interaction, in the way you replay conversations, hoping you didn't say too much, in the relief that follows when they respond, and the panic when they don't. It's not love. It's fear management, and it's exhausting. Eventually, you have to ask yourself, what's worse, being rejected for who you are, or being accepted for who you're not? One will hurt, the other will drain you. One leads to pain that heals. The other leads to a life that never quite feels like yours. When you stop performing, you risk being misunderstood. You risk losing people, but you gain clarity, you gain strength. You start to trust your own voice again. You start to breathe without waiting for someone else to tell you it's okay. The truth is, acceptance isn't something you beg for. It's something you build within, because the only person you need to come home to is yourself. When you begin to show up as you are, not as what's acceptable but what's true, you'll lose people, but you'll also attract the ones who never needed the performance in the first place. And those are the only ones worth keeping. The rest were only ever there for the role you played, not the person you are. Carl Jung also wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That's what approval chasing does. It turns you into someone who thinks their pain is just bad luck, when really It's a pattern, a habit, a script you've been living out unconsciously. And once you see that, you can choose differently. You can stop waiting to be chosen and start choosing yourself. There's no formula for guaranteed love, no behavior perfect enough to protect you from being left. But what you can control is the energy you bring into your life. You can decide to stop offering a version of yourself and start offering your actual self. Flawed, real, honest, not always agreeable, not always easy, but always true. That's not just courage, that's freedom. And once you've tasted that kind of freedom, you'll never want to go back to performing again. In the end, the pain of being seen and not accepted is sharp, but it's also a gift, because it strips away the mask. It shows you that you never needed to earn love through editing. You just needed to remember that you are already enough, even when you're not being applauded. The moment you stop chasing the illusion of acceptance, you start discovering the power of self-respect. And that, more than approval, more than comfort, more than temporary connection, is what builds a life that's truly yours. Pleasing others often feels like the right thing to do. It feels noble, humble, selfless. You make yourself easier to be around. You go with the flow, smooth over tension. Keep your opinions soft, your needs minimal. People smile at you. They thank you. You're appreciated for being agreeable, but the reward is shallow, because deep down you sense it. You're not being celebrated for who you are. You're being tolerated for how little trouble you cause. And that's not peace. That's performance. It's not connection. It's self-erasure. The smiles you earn come at the cost of your truth. And the longer you wear that mask, the more you forget where it ends and you begin. You convince yourself that you're avoiding conflict, when in fact you're avoiding clarity. You fear that being direct might hurt someone's feelings, or worse, push them away. So you hold back. You soften your tone. You reframe your truth into something less uncomfortable. But what starts as a one-time compromise quickly becomes a habit, a lifestyle. You learn to detect the slightest shifts in others' energy and adjust yourself accordingly. And with every small edit you make, you drift further from yourself. You're not being kind, you're being careful. And care that erases your inner world isn't kindness. It's self-abandonment. There's a subtle sadness that builds when your peace depends on other people's comfort. It's the kind of sadness that doesn't scream, it sighs. It shows up when you leave conversations feeling empty, even though everyone seemed happy. It creeps in when you agree to something, then lie awake wondering why you did. You start to notice it not in big dramatic moments, but in the quiet ones. In the way you hesitate before speaking. In the way you talk yourself out of asking for what you need. In the way you smile when you're actually frustrated. Each of those moments feels small, harmless, but they add up, and eventually you become a stranger to your own voice. Peace isn't the absence of disagreement, it's the presence of truth. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." But people-pleasing makes that impossible. You do things that aren't right for you just to avoid tension. You say things you don't fully mean just to keep things smooth. You confuse comfort with harmony. But real harmony doesn't ask you to shrink. It asks you to show up honestly with respect, not silence. It's not about shouting your truth. It's about not burying it, not diluting it until it's unrecognizable. There's a difference between being kind and being invisible. True kindness involves presence, not disappearance. It's rooted in choice, not fear. But when your actions are driven by a fear of disapproval or a fear of discomfort, they're no longer kindness, they're self-protection. And while self-protection is understandable, it becomes dangerous when it's constant. Because eventually, you don't know what you're protecting anymore. You forget who you were before the people-pleasing began. You forget what it feels like to speak freely, to act with conviction, to stand in your own shoes without looking around for permission. And the consequences go deeper than you might think, because the more you suppress your truth, the more resentment builds, not just toward others, but toward yourself. You begin to resent the version of you that smiles through everything, the one who always says yes, the one who puts everyone else first. You tell yourself you're easygoing, but inside there's tension, frustration, a quiet desperation to be seen, to be heard, to be allowed to be real. Carl Jung once said, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you." That's what people-pleasing does. It traps your important things beneath layers of politeness and compromise. It makes you lonely in a crowd. What's even more painful is that most people don't even notice. They enjoy the version of you that never disagrees, that always accommodates, that avoids tension. They appreciate your warmth, your willingness, your soft edges. But they don't see the parts of you that go unspoken. They don't know how much of yourself you've buried just to keep the relationship afloat. And when you finally reach a breaking point, when you start speaking up or pulling back, they're confused. They say you've changed, but you haven't changed. You've just stopped hiding. And that's where the tension begins, not because you're difficult, but because you're finally being honest. That honesty can feel jarring at first. You're so used to smoothing things over that directness feels like conflict, but it's not. It's clarity. And clarity is a gift, not just to you, but to everyone around you. Because when you speak your truth, even imperfectly, you give others permission to do the same. You create real connection, not surface-level agreement, but mutual understanding. And that understanding doesn't always mean harmony. Sometimes it means realizing that certain relationships were built on your silence, and when that silence ends, so does the connection. That's painful, but it's not a failure. It's truth sorting itself out. The beauty of stepping away from people-pleasing is that your energy begins to return. You're no longer drained by constant monitoring, constant editing. You don't walk on eggshells. You walk on your own 2 feet. You don't second-guess every sentence. You trust your words. You speak not to be accepted, but to be clear. And that clarity, though it might lose you some smiles, gives you something far more valuable. Peace that doesn't depend on how others react. Peace that comes from living in alignment. It takes courage to let go of being liked, to risk being misunderstood. But the cost of not doing it is far greater. Because when you betray yourself to please others, you teach yourself that your needs don't matter, that your voice is secondary, that discomfort should always be avoided, even if it means denying your truth. Over time, that erodes your self-respect. You begin to look outside yourself for guidance, for value, for stability. And the world is too unstable to offer you any of those things consistently. True peace is quiet. It doesn't beg to be noticed. It's the calm that comes from knowing you showed up honestly. It's the confidence of knowing you stood by your values, even if it was uncomfortable. And the people who can meet you in that space, who don't need you to perform to be loved, those are the ones who offer you something real. The rest may fall away. Let them. Not because you're better than them, but because you've simply outgrown the need to earn your place. So no, pleasing people never truly feels like peace. It might feel like relief. It might feel like approval. But it's not peace. Peace comes when your inner world stops fighting to be heard, when your actions no longer betray your heart. When you walk through your day not wondering what others think, but remembering what you know, that you are enough as you are, that your truth is not a problem to be solved, but a voice to be honored. And honoring that voice, quietly, consistently, is what allows you to come home to yourself. Not in one grand moment, but in every small decision where you choose authenticity over approval, clarity over comfort, presence over performance. That's the kind of peace that can't be taken from you, because it doesn't live in other people's hands. It lives in your own. It starts so subtly. You do something nice for someone, you say what they want to hear, and they smile. You feel good. You feel seen. And that feeling, it's addictive. It starts as a tool to get by, to fit in, to make others comfortable. But over time, what was once a strategy becomes a way of life. You find yourself constantly scanning the room, assessing the mood, and adapting accordingly. Every word you say, every action you take, it's no longer driven by what you think, but by what you believe will be well received. The question shifts from, "What do I believe?" to, "What will they think?" You begin to mold yourself, not to your values, but to the expectations of those around you. This doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual shift, like the slow wearing down of rock over time. You start by adjusting in small ways, just enough to keep the peace, just enough to avoid discomfort. You tell yourself it's no big deal. After all, it's just being considerate, right? But eventually, you stop noticing the shift altogether. What began as a simple desire to connect becomes an unconscious dependence. You start adjusting not just in big situations, but in every moment. You read the room before speaking, not for insight, but to predict the reactions you'll get. You find yourself saying what you think others want to hear, what you think will earn their approval. And before you know it, you're not even sure if the words you're speaking are your own. This is the moment where approval starts to become your compass. At first, it feels harmless. You're not doing anything wrong, right? You're just being polite, just being nice. But the danger lies in how your sense of self starts to erode. The more you align your actions with others' expectations, the less you align them with your own beliefs. What began as a tool for social ease becomes the very foundation of how you navigate the world. You stop asking yourself, "What is true for me?" and start asking, "What's the safest option here? What will make them comfortable?" You're still doing the right things, but for the wrong reasons. You're still being nice, but your kindness is no longer rooted in authenticity. It's rooted in fear, fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of being unseen. And this is where the danger lies. In the beginning, you might feel that you're getting closer to others. After all, you're playing the game. You're meeting people's needs, smoothing over conflicts, keeping things peaceful. But what you're really doing is becoming less and less visible to them and to yourself. Because when you start shaping your actions based on others' preferences, you stop allowing yourself the space to be fully you. Your voice becomes quieter, your needs more distant, and your values less clear. You're no longer living according to your own truth. You're living according to a script you've created to ensure others approve of you. And while that script may win you temporary validation, it can never give you the depth of connection you're really seeking. When approval is your compass, you start losing that privilege. You start living someone else's version of your life. You begin to wear a mask that shifts with every social situation, and eventually you forget what it feels like to simply be yourself. This dependency on others' approval can make you feel like you're constantly performing, constantly reacting to the world around you, instead of living in alignment with your inner truth. And over time, this creates a disconnect between who you are and who you think you should be. The more you seek external validation, the more you lose touch with the one voice that truly matters, your own. It's easy to convince yourself that you're just being considerate, or that you're being flexible and open-minded. But there's a subtle and often unspoken cost to this constant adaptation. It's not just your words that change, it's your entire sense of self. You begin to feel less like a person and more like a reflection of the people around you. And that, more than anything, is where the loneliness begins to creep in. It's not the physical absence of others, but the emotional and psychological absence of yourself. When you constantly tailor yourself to meet others' expectations, you lose the ability to feel grounded in who you really are. Your identity begins to be shaped by external feedback, by what others think of you, rather than by your own beliefs, values, and desires. You start to confuse approval with connection, comfort with authenticity, and safety with peace. But they're not the same thing. True peace doesn't come from avoiding discomfort or approval. It comes from standing firm in your own truth, even when it's hard. It comes from knowing who you are, regardless of who is watching or how they might react. This dependency on approval isn't just about avoiding discomfort. It's about avoiding conflict with yourself, and that avoidance slowly starts to tear you apart. It's easy to put others' needs first because it's simple, it's safe, and it feels good in the moment. But in the long run, it drains your energy and your sense of self. When you put others' expectations before your own truths, you're slowly giving away your power, piece by piece. And eventually, you might find yourself asking, who am I really underneath all these adaptations? What do I truly believe without the need for someone else to approve it? The truth is, approval seeking never leads to the peace we crave. It leads to a life of constant negotiation between who you are and who you think you should be. The peace you're after, the true sense of connection, comes from being real with yourself, first and foremost. It comes from letting go of the need to be accepted by everyone, and instead focusing on the importance of accepting yourself. You don't need others' approval to feel worthy. You don't need to mold yourself into what others want in order to belong. The only belonging that matters is belonging to yourself. The only approval that matters is yours. And here's the thing. When you start to live authentically, when you stop tailoring your actions to others' expectations, something shifts. It's not easy at first. It feels uncomfortable, even risky. But eventually, you begin to feel the weight lifting. You stop feeling like you're constantly performing. You stop feeling like you're walking on eggshells. You stop feeling the need to check others' faces for validation. And in that freedom, you discover something remarkable. Peace. Not the peace of avoiding conflict, but the peace of standing in your truth, unwavering, no matter what others may think. This doesn't mean you'll stop seeking connection. It doesn't mean you'll stop wanting to be loved, accepted, or understood. It simply means that your worth won't hinge on whether or not you get those things. Because the truth is, when you stop seeking approval, you stop living for others' validation. You start living for yourself. And that's the kind of life that feels real. It's the kind of life that brings genuine peace, not the temporary relief of others' smiles, but the lasting satisfaction of being fully and unapologetically you. What we often fail to realize is that approval is a crutch. It's an illusion of safety. You may get the approval you're seeking, but at what cost? You lose the essence of who you are in the process. The only true path to peace, to authentic connection, is to let go of that crutch. Let go of the constant need to mold yourself for others. Stand firm in your own voice, even when it's uncomfortable. In the end, it's not approval that will fulfill you, it's self-acceptance. And that's where true peace lies. Epictetus once spoke of the subtle slavery that comes with the need for approval. Not the kind of slavery where chains bind you, but the kind where your own habits start to confine you. It's the way you adjust your tone to avoid offending someone, even when you're not being true to what you feel. It's the way you edit your posts, crafting them to appear more polished, more insightful, as if your raw truth isn't good enough to be shared. It's the way you smile through discomfort, nod through disagreement, and bite your tongue when you really want to speak up, just to keep the peace. These actions may seem harmless, even polite, but they come at a cost. They are the chains of self-censorship, the chains that don't show on the outside but weigh heavily on the inside. This slavery isn't about someone else holding the chains, it's about how you hold them yourself. Every time you compromise your truth to gain approval, you're tightening the grip on your own freedom. The world doesn't need to control you with force. It simply teaches you to control yourself for its comfort. It teaches you to be agreeable, to fit in, to mold your behavior to avoid discomfort or conflict. And over time, you begin to forget what it feels like to act without this self-imposed restraint. You start to believe that your worth is tied to how others perceive you, that your voice is only valuable when it is palatable to the masses. What's most insidious about this form of slavery is how natural it feels. You tell yourself you're just being thoughtful or considerate or kind. You justify these small compromises, telling yourself it's no big deal. After all, you don't want to upset anyone. You don't want to cause any tension. But in truth, every time you suppress your true self, you lose a little bit of your own sense of self. It's as if you are editing your essence, trimming away pieces of who you really are to make yourself more acceptable. It's as though you're constantly putting on a mask, one that fits the situation but hides the face beneath it. And eventually, you don't know who you are anymore without the mask. But how can you become who you truly are when you're so busy conforming to the expectations around you? The truth is, in trying so hard to be liked, to be accepted, to be seen as good, you lose the very thing that would make you valuable in the first place, your authentic self. And as the years go by, as you continue to mold yourself for others, the person you once knew so well, the person you were before the masks and compromises, begins to fade. The original you becomes buried under layers of social conformity, buried under the pressure of what everyone else expects of you. We've all been there, haven't we? The moments when you check your social media post a dozen times, tweaking your words just to make sure it will be received well. You adjust your language, soften your opinions, add a smile to your tone just to make sure no one feels offended. You smile when you'd rather frown, nod when you'd rather speak out, and agree when you know you should disagree. And all of this is for the sake of what? Approval, acceptance. The truth is, approval never fills you up the way you think it will. It's a quick fix, like sugar. It satisfies in the moment, but it leaves you craving more. You get the likes, the compliments, the validation, but when the applause fades, you're left wondering who you really are. This type of slavery to likability feeds off your insecurity. It thrives on your fear of rejection, fear of being cast aside, fear of standing alone. But here's the truth. When you bend yourself constantly to fit others' expectations, you're not growing, you're shrinking. You're shrinking the real you, the one with unique thoughts, bold ideas, and a strong sense of self. And without even realizing it, you become trapped in a cycle of self-editing, self-censorship, and self-doubt. Every compromise, every small adjustment is a brick in the wall you're building around your true self. As the philosopher Nietzsche once said, "He who fights with monsters should be careful lest he thereby become a monster." The same can be said for those who seek constant approval. They risk losing themselves in the process. When you're constantly adjusting who you are to gain the approval of others, you start to lose sight of what truly matters to you. You become so focused on keeping everyone happy that you forget to ask yourself what you want. You lose touch with your own desires, your own goals, your own values, and in doing so, you become a stranger to yourself. The real freedom comes when you let go of the need to be liked, when you stop measuring your worth by the number of approvals you collect. True freedom comes from standing firm in your own truth, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it challenges the status quo. It comes from saying, "This is who I am," and not apologizing for it. It's about accepting the reality that not everyone will like you, not everyone will agree with you, and that's okay. It's not about being rude or dismissive, it's about being real. The world doesn't need more people who are afraid to speak up, who are afraid to say what they believe, who are afraid to stand firm in their values. What the world needs is more people who are willing to be themselves, no matter what. The more you chase approval, the less you'll find peace. Peace comes from being authentic, from knowing you're living in alignment with your true values, not based on what others expect or demand from you. It comes from being grounded in who you are, regardless of what others think. The moment you stop performing for others' approval is the moment you start to feel truly free. You stop dancing to someone else's tune and start creating your own rhythm. You start making decisions based on your values, your truths, and your desires, not based on fear of rejection or the need to please others. At first, it will feel uncomfortable. Letting go of the need for approval is no small task. It takes courage. It takes strength. But over time, it becomes easier. You start to notice the weight lifting off your shoulders. You start to notice that the more authentic you are, the more you attract the people who truly appreciate you for who you are. Not for the mask you wear, not for the performance you put on, but for the real you, the person beneath the layers of edits and adjustments. And those are the people who matter. They're the ones who see you, not for your approval ratings, but for your essence. So, the next time you feel the pull to change your voice, to hide your opinion, or to soften your words just to fit in, remember that you don't need to seek approval to feel worthy. The only approval you need is your own. And when you learn to approve of yourself, when you embrace your truth, your unique voice, and your values, you unlock the greatest freedom you'll ever experience, the freedom to be yourself. And in that freedom, you'll discover the most genuine peace of all. Peace that isn't dependent on others. Peace that comes from knowing you've stopped performing and started living your truth. When you seek approval from others, you hand over the pen to them, and without realizing it, you're letting them write your story. Every compliment they give becomes fuel for your ego, a temporary fix that makes you feel seen and valued. Every silence, every unspoken judgment becomes a threat, a crack in your sense of self-worth. Suddenly, your identity is no longer rooted in who you are, but in how others perceive you. You start to measure your value based on the approval you get from those around you. You start to believe that your worth is determined by their reactions. And the worst part is, this cycle never ends. The more you seek approval, the more you find yourself constantly dependent on it, chasing it like an endless supply of air. But what if you could take the pen back? Imagine for a moment that you didn't need anyone else to validate your existence. What if you stopped waiting for the nod of approval, the compliment, or the applause? What if you stopped asking for permission to be yourself, to speak your truth, to pursue your dreams? What would happen if you started writing your own story instead of letting others do it for you? This shift, this simple but powerful act of reclaiming the pen, changes everything. When you take control of your own narrative, you stop letting external forces dictate your value. You stop living for other people's approval. Instead, you start living for yourself, guided by your own convictions and your own sense of what's right. When you reclaim the pen, you stop editing yourself to fit someone else's vision and start creating your own path. You begin to trust yourself, your decisions, and your worth, independent of others' judgments. When you stop asking for validation, you start validating yourself. You don't need external feedback to know that you're on the right track. You don't need someone else's approval to feel like you matter. You start to understand that your value comes from within, from your own sense of integrity and authenticity. But here's the catch. Reclaiming the pen doesn't mean rejecting other people's opinions entirely. It doesn't mean becoming arrogant or dismissive of others. It means that you stop letting their opinions have the power to define you. You begin to listen to feedback, but you no longer let it shape your identity. You stop questioning your worth every time someone challenges you. Instead, you develop the strength to listen to criticism without letting it diminish your sense of self. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." When you reclaim the pen, you stop allowing others' thoughts to control your happiness. You start living according to your own standards, not the ones imposed on you by others. This shift is not easy. We've been conditioned from a young age to seek approval. It's a survival instinct, the desire to fit in, to belong, to be accepted by the tribe. But at some point, that instinct becomes a trap. It stops being a tool for connection and becomes a prison of insecurity and self-doubt. You begin to shape yourself not for personal growth or authenticity, but for external validation. You start to compromise your beliefs, your actions, and even your identity to fit the expectations of others. And the more you do this, the further you drift away from who you truly are. What if, instead of trying to fit into the mold others have created for you, you created your own mold? What if you stopped trying to be someone you're not just to be liked? What if you embraced your true self, flaws and all, and let that be enough? Reclaiming the pen means owning your story, your voice, and your choices. It means that you are the author of your own life. It means that you no longer have to shrink or conform to make others comfortable. You can stand tall in your truth, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it challenges the status quo. Think about the people you respect. Do they seek validation from others, or do they live with a quiet confidence, unshaken by external judgments? The people you admire the most are the ones who have stopped seeking approval. They are the ones who have found their own voice and embraced it fully. They are the ones who live authentically, unapologetically, and without fear of rejection. These are the people who don't need to be liked by everyone. They know that their worth is not determined by others' opinions, but by their own values and actions. So, what would happen if you stopped seeking approval? What if you started living your life on your terms, making decisions based on your own beliefs and values, rather than trying to please others? The first step is to reclaim the pen. Take back control of your narrative. Stop letting others dictate your worth. Start making choices that are true to who you are, not who you think you should be. And as you do, you'll start to notice a shift. The more you trust yourself, the more your confidence grows. The more you stop looking to others for validation, the more grounded you become in your own sense of self. You begin to live a life of purpose, guided by your own principles, rather than the fleeting approval of others. But this doesn't happen overnight. Reclaiming the pen is a process. It takes time, practice, and self-reflection. It requires you to look inward and ask yourself, what do I really believe? What is important to me? What kind of person do I want to be, regardless of what anyone else thinks? And once you start answering those questions honestly, you'll begin to feel a sense of freedom you've never experienced before. Because when you stop seeking approval, you stop living for others. You start living for yourself. You stop performing and start being. And that is where true fulfillment lies. As you take back the pen, remember that you don't need validation to be valid. You need conviction. You need the courage to live in alignment with your truth, even when it's hard, even when it challenges others' expectations. When you reclaim the pen, you reclaim your power. You stop letting others write your story, and you start writing it yourself. And when you do, you'll find that the story you create is far more meaningful, far more authentic, and far more fulfilling than any story someone else could ever write for you. So, as you go about your day, think about how often you hand over the pen to others. Think about how much of your life has been shaped by the approval you seek. And then ask yourself, what would it look like if I took the pen back? What would it look like if I started writing my own story? The answer, I promise you, is worth discovering. Because when you stop seeking approval and start living with conviction, you'll not only reclaim the pen, you'll reclaim your life. Confidence is often misunderstood. People think it's about how loudly you speak, how bold your posture is, or how many people you can impress. But the truth is, confidence isn't about volume or image. It's not even about pretending to be someone you're not in order to appear powerful. True confidence comes from something much deeper, something quieter, and much more enduring. Confidence, at its core, is rooted in alignment. It's the ability to walk through life knowing that your actions match your values. It's the internal certainty that who you are on the outside reflects who you are on the inside. You see, confidence is built when you say what you mean, and most importantly, when you live like you believe it, especially when no one is watching. It's when you hold yourself to a standard that's unwavering, not because you want others to see your strength, but because you respect yourself too much to compromise it. It's the quiet moments, when the world is silent, when you could easily bend to fit the situation, and yet you choose to stand firm in your truth, no matter how unpopular that might be. That's when your real power shows up. True confidence doesn't require validation. It doesn't need applause, and it certainly doesn't thrive on compliments. It's not about the reaction of others, but the feeling of inner alignment that comes when you act from a place of deep conviction. That's the root of. Confidence is not something you acquire by pretending to be someone else. It's about discovering who you really are and having the courage to embrace that, especially when the world wants you to be something different. And this is where true confidence thrives, when you become so rooted in your values that you stop second-guessing yourself and stop seeking approval from external sources. When you believe in your integrity, your actions become effortless. The more you align yourself with your truth, the more naturally your confidence will shine. Integrity is the foundation of confidence. This is something the Stoic philosophers understood profoundly. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." His words remind us that our actions define us. When we live according to our principles, when we make decisions based on what we truly believe in, confidence follows naturally. It's not a show, it's not a facade. It's not about trying to convince others of your strength or ability. It's about being congruent, about your inner and outer worlds matching. When this happens, you feel a sense of calm certainty in yourself, even when faced with challenges or criticism. Think about the times when you felt truly confident. Was it when you were at your loudest or your most attention-grabbing? Or was it when you stood firm in your beliefs, even when it felt uncomfortable? True confidence shows up when you can express yourself authentically, even when you know others might disagree, or when you know that doing the right thing might cause tension. It's about standing in your own truth, even if it means standing alone. This type of confidence is not dependent on others' opinions or on social approval. It doesn't waver with the crowd's reactions. It stands firm, unshaken, because it is grounded in your own values and self-respect. But let's be real, this doesn't come easily. It's much easier to fall into the trap of seeking validation from others. We live in a world where external affirmation is constantly available. A like, a share, a comment, all create little bursts of dopamine that trick us into thinking that this is how we validate our worth. But what happens when that external validation disappears? What happens when the likes stop coming, when the compliments dry up, when the applause fades? You might find yourself standing there, unsure of who you are without the validation of others to back you up. That's the illusion of external confidence. It's fragile. And the only way to protect yourself from this fragility is to build a confidence that comes from within. This is why aligning your actions with your values is so important. It gives you something solid to stand on. When you act in accordance with your beliefs, you develop a sense of integrity that cannot be shaken. You don't have to explain yourself to others or seek their approval because you already know who you are. You've built that inner certainty. It's like planting a tree with deep roots. It doesn't sway in the wind because it is grounded. Similarly, when your confidence is rooted in your integrity, nothing can shake you. Of course, this doesn't mean that you won't face challenges. You will. In fact, you're more likely to face them, because living in alignment with your values often requires standing up to the status quo, and that's uncomfortable. There will be moments when people criticize you, when they misunderstand you, or when they flat out reject you. But true confidence isn't the absence of these challenges. It's the ability to face them without being torn apart by them. It's knowing that no matter how others react, you're still true to yourself. It's about not losing yourself when the world pushes back. The Stoics in particular understood that the external world is beyond our control. What people say, how they react, what happens in our daily lives, it's all outside of our grasp. But what we can control is how we respond to these things. As Epictetus famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This is the crux of real confidence, the ability to control your responses. When you are aligned with your values, your response is always rooted in that internal truth, not in the need for external validation or the desire to please others. It's easy to confuse confidence with arrogance, but they are worlds apart. Arrogance is built on the need to be seen, to be admired, to be praised. It's a constant performance, a facade that you put up to protect yourself from the fear of being exposed. But true confidence doesn't require performance. It doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. It is grounded in who you are, not pretending you don't care when deep down you care so much. It's the weariness that creeps in when you've been wearing a mask for so long that you forget what it feels like to breathe without it. That's not burnout from hard work. It's burnout from inauthenticity. The mask we wear, this facade of happiness, agreement, contentment, is heavy. But here's the kicker. It's completely optional. You don't have to wear it. Yet many of us do, day after day, until we're completely drained, not because we've been busy, but because we've been pretending. This can be especially hard to recognize because society constantly tells us to smile, to fit in, to go along with the crowd. We're told that compromise and conformity are virtues, that blending in is the key to harmony. But the truth is, when we hide behind a mask, we lose a part of ourselves in the process. We make small, quiet sacrifices, sacrifices of truth, of personal integrity, and before long, we're left with nothing but exhaustion and a feeling of emptiness. So many of us spend years trying to become who others want us to be. The mask becomes a shield, but over time, it becomes a prison. We think we're protecting ourselves, hiding from judgment, avoiding conflict. But the truth is, we're slowly suffocating under the weight of it all. We're not allowing ourselves to truly live. We're just existing in a form that others approve of. We become experts at wearing the mask in different situations, adjusting it to fit whatever role we're expected to play. But what happens when you take that mask off? What happens when you let yourself breathe without the fear of judgment? That's where freedom lies, but it's also where discomfort starts, because living authentically is never the easy path. It's easy to think that wearing the mask makes life easier, that by suppressing our true selves, we can avoid the pain of rejection, the sting of disapproval. But that's a lie we tell ourselves. The truth is, the more you hide, the more your soul gets weary. This kind of exhaustion isn't physical, it's spiritual. It's the burnout of being disconnected from yourself. You might be going through the motions, saying the right things, smiling when you're supposed to, but inside, you're becoming less and less of who you really are. You're losing your connection to your truth, and that, more than anything, drains you. The Stoics, who lived thousands of years ago, understood this struggle better than most. They knew that trying to control how others perceive you is a futile effort. We can't control what people think of us, but we can control how we show up in the world. And the Stoics believed that our value doesn't come from the approval of others. It comes from living in accordance with our virtues, our inner truth. When we stop seeking external validation, we free ourselves from the burnout of the mask. We become more aligned with who we are, and suddenly the weight of pretense starts to lift. We can breathe again. But here's the challenge. It's not an easy switch. Living authentically takes courage. It requires the bravery to face rejection, the resilience to stand firm in your truth, even when it's uncomfortable. When you stop pretending, you might feel vulnerable at first, exposed even. But there's a strange power in that vulnerability. There's a strength in embracing who you are without apology, in letting go of the need to be liked or accepted by everyone. The world may not always understand it, but your spirit will thank you. There's freedom in shedding the layers of who you thought you had to be and simply embracing who you truly are. The problem is that this isn't the kind of message we get from the world around us. We're conditioned to perform. We're told to be happy, to be agreeable, to be the version of ourselves that others want to see. Social media, for example, has become an enormous stage for this performance, where we carefully curate our lives, showing only the polished, perfect parts and hiding the messy, real stuff. We've been taught to filter our emotions, to smile even when we're hurting, to tell others we're okay when we're anything but. The pressure to maintain this image is relentless, and over time, that pressure builds up, contributing to the burnout we feel. It's like carrying a weight that no one else can see, but it's constantly there, exhausting us. However, the real question we need to ask ourselves is, who are we trying to please by keeping up the mask? Are we truly doing it for ourselves, or is it for the approval of others? The answer is often uncomfortable. We're wearing the mask because we've been taught to seek external validation, to define our worth by how others see us. And in doing so, we've forgotten what it feels like to define ourselves from within. This is the key to ending the burnout. The realization that the mask isn't serving us. It's draining us. The mask is optional. It may feel like it's necessary to survive, to fit in, to belong, but in reality, it's just a choice we keep making. You have the power to take it off. It won't happen overnight, but with each small act of authenticity, with each moment where you choose to speak your truth, the mask starts to slip away. You don't need to perform anymore. You don't need to act for the applause. All you need to do is show up as yourself, with honesty, integrity, and vulnerability. But how do you begin this process? It starts by getting real with yourself. It starts by recognizing the moments when you're wearing the mask. When are you pretending to be something you're not? When are you putting on a face to avoid conflict or to gain approval? Once you start noticing these moments, you can begin to choose differently. You can choose to be true to yourself, even if it means stepping outside of your comfort zone. It's in these moments of discomfort where growth happens. It's in these moments that you begin to reclaim your energy, your peace, and your authenticity. The path to removing the mask is not an easy one, but it's the only path to true peace. It's the only way to avoid the burnout that comes from inauthenticity. The Stoics knew this. Living in accordance with your values and principles, no matter what others think or say, is the only way to live a fulfilling, energized life. They didn't seek validation from the crowd. They lived for themselves, not in selfishness, but in alignment with their deeper truth. This kind of life frees you from the burden of pretending. It gives you the courage to stand in your truth, even when it's uncomfortable. When you stop pretending, you reclaim your power. You stop letting the opinions of others dictate how you live your life. You stop wearing the mask because you no longer need to protect yourself from the world. The world becomes a space where you can exist freely, without apology, and the weight of pretending starts to disappear. What you're left with is your authentic self, a self that is free, at peace, and unburdened by the exhaustion of inauthenticity. So, take off the mask. Allow yourself to breathe again. You don't need to be who others want you to be. You just need to be who you truly are. That's the only person who deserves your time, your energy, and your love. And when you embrace that truth, the burnout will end, and your real self will finally be free. Rejection hurts. There's no denying it. We've all felt that sting, that sharp feeling of being cut off, of being passed over or left behind. But here's the thing. Rejection isn't painful because of the disconnection itself. It's painful because of the story we attach to it. When we're rejected, it's not just the no that hurts. It's what we believe about ourselves in the moment. I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. I failed. These thoughts aren't just reactions. They're stories we create in our minds, shaping the experience of rejection into something far worse than it needs to be. But what if the story is wrong? What if rejection isn't a judgment on your worth or abilities? What if it's not a verdict, but a filter? A filter that removes what's not meant for you. You see, we often think of rejection as a sign that we are somehow deficient, as if the world has pointed at us and said, "You don't belong." But in reality, rejection is often the universe's way of clearing the path for what is truly meant for us. It's not about what we're losing, it's about what we're being saved from. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Often, rejection helps us to strip away the illusions of what we think we want and need. It challenges us to face our fears, our insecurities, and our attachments. And through this process, it frees us, because every no we survive is proof that we never needed that yes in the first place. When we are rejected, we are often simply being redirected to something more aligned with who we are. But let's be honest, the sting of rejection is real. It's hard to face, especially when it feels personal. It's easy to get caught up in the self-doubt that creeps in. We begin questioning ourselves. Why wasn't I chosen? Why didn't they like me? Why didn't it work out? We allow that pain to settle in, and before long, we make the mistake of thinking that rejection is a reflection of our worth. But what if that's the wrong way to look at it? What if, instead of internalizing rejection as a personal failure, we see it as an opportunity for growth, a chance to realign our path with our true purpose? In the pursuit of acceptance, we often forget the power of saying no. The Stoics understood this well. They taught us that the good life is not one of constant validation, but of personal integrity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Reject your sense of injury, and the injury itself disappears." It's an empowering thought, isn't it? If we reject the belief that rejection defines us, then it ceases to have the power to hurt us. Instead of allowing rejection to wound our spirit, we can begin to use it as a tool to fortify our resolve, to reaffirm that we are enough, with or without external validation. The reason we often feel so devastated by rejection is because we place our sense of worth in the hands of others. We are constantly seeking approval, waiting for others to affirm that we are worthy, capable, or loved. When we don't get that affirmation, it feels like a personal attack, and we spiral into self-criticism. But here's the truth. When we rely on others' approval to define us, we're giving them control over our sense of self. Rejection then becomes a reflection of their judgment, rather than an opportunity for us to evaluate our own worth. In those moments, we need to remind ourselves that we are not defined by other people's perceptions. Instead of focusing on the pain of rejection, we can begin to focus on the lessons it offers. It teaches us resilience. It teaches us the importance of staying grounded in our own values. And most importantly, it teaches us the art of letting go. Sometimes the things we think we want are not actually what's best for us. Rejection gives us the chance to step back and assess. Do we really want to be where we were rejected, or is there something better waiting for us just out of sight? In many ways, rejection is a form of liberation. It frees us from attachments that no longer serve us, relationships that are not aligned with our values, opportunities that aren't meant to be ours. In rejecting us, the world may be creating the space we need to receive something better. But how can we embrace this idea when we feel the weight of the no in our hearts? The key is to shift our perspective. When we view rejection as a necessary process, rather than as an end, we can begin to release the negative emotions attached to it. It's like pruning a tree. You cut away the branches that are no longer productive, allowing the rest of the tree to grow stronger and more vibrant. Each rejection is an opportunity to refine our desires, to focus our energy on what truly matters, and to let go of what isn't serving us. Think about this for a moment. What would your life look like if you didn't let rejection define you? If, instead of feeling defeated by a no, you saw it as a redirection towards something more aligned with who you are? Imagine how different your life would be if you were free from the constant need for validation. How much energy would you gain? How much peace would you find? Jung reminds us that what you resist persists. When we resist rejection, we only magnify its power over us. But when we embrace it, when we understand that rejection is not the end of our story, but a part of our journey, we begin to break free from its hold. Rejection is not a verdict on who we are. It is simply a part of the process that leads us toward greater clarity and self-understanding. What would it look like to step into each day with a sense of inner confidence that isn't reliant on anyone else's approval? How different would your life be if you didn't seek others' validation, but instead trusted yourself to know your own worth? The moment we start living with this kind of clarity, rejection begins to lose its power over us. Instead of viewing it as a threat to our identity, we start to see it as an opportunity for growth, a stepping stone toward becoming the person we were always meant to be. Every no we survive is proof that we didn't need that particular approval in the first place. It's proof that our worth doesn't depend on others' opinions. And when we fully embrace this truth, we start to walk through life with a sense of inner peace that no rejection can take away. Instead of fearing rejection, we begin to see it as the catalyst that helps us shed the unnecessary layers and move closer to our true selves. In the end, rejection isn't the enemy. It's the teacher we never knew we needed. Imagine, for a moment, the fear that gnaws at you when you're about to take a big step in life. Whether it's speaking your truth, making a tough decision, or putting yourself out there in ways you've never done before, the fear is palpable. It's the voice in your head that says, "What if they don't like me? What if I fail? What if I'm wrong?" It's paralyzing. That fear grips you, holds you back, and makes you question your every move. But what if the secret to facing that fear isn't avoiding it, but actually embracing it head-on before it can control you? What if you could stand tall even when the fear comes rushing toward you, fully aware and prepared? The Stoics had a term for this, premeditatio malorum, which translates to the premeditation of evil. It's not about being consumed by negativity or creating a doomsday scenario in your mind. No, the Stoics understood something much deeper. It's about imagining the worst-case scenario, not to spiral into fear, but to prepare for it, to rob it of its power. By mentally rehearsing the challenges you might face, you strip them of their surprise and give yourself the mental space to confront them head-on, should they arise. Carl Jung, the renowned Swiss psychiatrist, once said, "The greatest and most important problems of life are not the ones that come unexpectedly, but the ones that we refuse to acknowledge." This rings so true when it comes to our fears. The things we fear most often hold no power over us once we've faced them and seen them for what they are. Fear is powerful not because of its true potential, but because of the way it distorts our perception of reality. By actively facing that fear, by acknowledging it and allowing ourselves to feel it, we take the power back. Think about it. How many times have you avoided something because you feared it would be too hard, too overwhelming, or too risky? And yet, when you finally face it, you realize it wasn't as daunting as you imagined. The same applies to the fear of rejection, criticism, or failure. By imagining these fears in advance, you allow yourself to prepare mentally and emotionally. You begin to see them for what they are, temporary obstacles, not life-altering judgments. You rob them of the ability to surprise you. Instead of waiting for fear to strike, you walk into it with eyes wide open. What's powerful about this practice is how it changes the way you see yourself. If you can mentally prepare for the worst, if you can accept that no matter what happens, you can still stand, then you begin to understand that your worth doesn't hinge on external validation. Your value isn't tied to whether others approve of you, praise you, or accept you. Your worth comes from your actions, from the way you carry yourself in the face of difficulty, from your ability to stand firm when everything around you is uncertain. This is where true power lies, not in the absence of fear, but in the ability to act despite it. Think about the most influential figures in history. Did they never feel fear? Of course not, but they didn't let it control them. They didn't allow the fear of being misunderstood, criticized, or rejected to stop them from moving forward. They faced it head-on and acted anyway. And that's where you find your power, in your willingness to act with clarity, with purpose, even when the fear is present. Jung also said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." But why is that so terrifying? Because it means embracing all of yourself, the good, the bad, and the imperfect. It means looking at your fears, your flaws, and your vulnerabilities, and still choosing to move forward. It's terrifying, yes, but it's also liberating, because the moment you accept yourself, fear loses its hold. You stop being afraid of what might happen and start focusing on what you can control, your response, your actions, and your decisions. Think of the last time you were faced with a difficult situation. Maybe it was speaking up in a meeting, confronting a difficult truth, or taking a leap of faith in some area of your life. If you took a moment to imagine what the worst-case scenario would be, what if they disagree with me? What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? You probably found that those fears were not as catastrophic as you once believed. In fact, the mere act of visualizing them gave you a sense of control. You saw that you could survive them, and even more importantly, you realized that no matter what happened, you would still be standing, This is the essence of the Stoic practice of premeditatio malorum. It's not about fearing what could happen, but acknowledging that even if the worst happens, you'll still be okay. You'll still have your strength, your integrity, and your ability to keep moving forward. This shifts your perspective from one of helplessness to one of empowerment. You no longer feel as though you're at the mercy of the world around you. Instead, you realize that you have the ability to handle whatever comes your way. And the beauty of this practice is that it doesn't require perfection. It simply requires the willingness to face fear with honesty, to confront it head-on rather than run from it. It's about stepping into the discomfort, feeling the anxiety, and yet still choosing to act with intention. When you do this consistently, you build a resilience that becomes unshakable. You stop allowing fear to control your decisions, and instead, you take control of your own narrative. This doesn't mean that rejection or criticism won't still hurt. It doesn't mean you'll never feel the sting of a no or a misstep. But when you face those fears in advance, you build a shield that allows you to stand tall regardless of what happens. You no longer need to seek approval to feel validated, because your worth is no longer contingent on external feedback. Your value is grounded in the strength of your actions and your commitment to your own principles. When you stand in your own truth, when you embrace the fear and act in spite of it, you reclaim your power. You stop waiting for the world to validate your worth, and instead, you take responsibility for defining it yourself. And that, my friends, is where true freedom lies. You no longer need permission to be yourself. You no longer need others to approve of your choices. You've already given yourself permission to act with integrity, no matter the consequences. And once you've done that, fear no longer has the same grip on you. You are free to live authentically without the need for external validation or approval. As the Stoics taught us, it's not the events themselves that determine our peace of mind, but our perception of them. Rejection, failure, criticism, these things are all part of life. But they don't define us. They don't control us. When we prepare ourselves for the worst and then act regardless of it, we take back the pen to write our own story. And when we do that, fear loses its power over us. It becomes just another challenge we can face head-on, knowing that we are more than capable of handling whatever comes our way. So the next time fear comes knocking, don't run from it. Don't try to avoid it. Instead, acknowledge it, embrace it, and then move forward. Because when you face the fear before it owns you, you'll realize that you've been the one in control all along. We spend so much of our lives chasing after approval. It's almost like a subconscious pursuit, driven by the desire to be liked, to be accepted. We bend ourselves, shape ourselves into the mold we think will win others over. Maybe it's fitting in at work, or playing the part in a relationship, or just trying to gain favor in a social group. At the core of it, we believe that being liked, being approved of, will bring us the peace we're desperately searching for. But here's the truth. It's not the approval that you really crave. It's alignment. It's the sense of being at peace with yourself, of knowing that when you look in the mirror at the end of the day, you didn't betray yourself. That feeling, that unshakable truth that you've acted with integrity, is what you're really seeking. And becoming who you truly are doesn't require the applause of others. It requires the courage to stand firm in your own beliefs, even when the world around you may not understand or approve. It's not about molding yourself to fit expectations. It's about shedding the layers that others have tried to impose upon you and finding what's beneath, the version of yourself that's true, authentic, and unyielding. Integrity isn't something that needs to be validated by outside forces. It's an internal standard that doesn't change with the winds of public opinion. When you live with integrity, you stop asking, "Do they like me?" Instead, you ask, Did I live in a way that aligns with my values? It's a question of internal harmony, not external validation. And when you can answer yes to that question, when you know that your actions align with your beliefs, you've already won the only approval that matters. There's something liberating in that. You no longer need to look to others for confirmation of your worth. You begin to recognize that the only person whose approval truly matters is the one you see in the mirror every day. We've all felt it at some point, the hollow feeling that comes when you act in a way that isn't true to yourself, just to please someone else. It might seem harmless at first, but over time, it eats away at you. Every time you suppress your truth to fit someone else's expectations, you lose a little piece of yourself. But the moment you stop seeking approval, you begin to reclaim those pieces. The moment you choose integrity over compliance, you take back your power. You stop letting others dictate your sense of self. Epictetus once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." Seeking approval, constantly checking for external validation, is one of those things that lies beyond your control. You can't control how others perceive you, how they judge you, or whether they approve of you. But you can control your actions. You can choose to live in alignment with your values, no matter how others respond. That's where true freedom lies. Think about a time when you stood by your convictions, even though it wasn't the easy path. Maybe it was speaking your truth when it wasn't popular. Maybe it was making a difficult decision that others didn't agree with. In that moment, you weren't just showing integrity to the world, you were showing it to yourself. And that feeling of internal approval, of knowing that you acted according to your values, is far more satisfying than any external praise or recognition. It's a deep, lasting peace that comes from within. It's the kind of approval that doesn't need to be earned or given by anyone else because it's already yours. Here's the thing. When you live with integrity, when you are grounded in your own values, the winds of opinion can't move you. It doesn't matter if someone criticizes you, disapproves of your choices, or questions your path. You are anchored. The foundation of your self-worth is built on something far more solid than public opinion. It's built on the unshakable truth of who you are and what you stand for. And when you're anchored in that, you stop seeking external validation. You stop looking for the applause because you already know your worth. It's easy to get caught up in the game of seeking approval. In today's world, it's even more difficult, with social media constantly reminding us how many likes, shares, and comments we get. But those numbers don't define you. They don't speak to your character. They don't reflect the depth of your integrity. What defines you is your ability to act in alignment with your principles, no matter how many people are watching. When you let go of the need for approval, you free yourself from the expectations of others, and that's when you begin to experience true peace. Because at the end of the day, the only person who can truly judge your worth is you. Living with integrity also means accepting yourself, flaws and all. It's about being honest with yourself, even when it's uncomfortable. When you stop seeking approval, you stop pretending to be someone you're not. You embrace your authenticity, and in doing so, you find a deeper connection to yourself. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. It's about showing up as you are, without apology, without needing anyone's permission to take up space in the world. So, how do you start living with more integrity? It begins with the small things. It's about being true to your word, keeping your promises, and living in a way that aligns with your values, even when it's hard. It's about not compromising who you are just to fit in or gain approval. It's about speaking your truth, even when it might not be popular. And most importantly, it's about accepting yourself for who you are, flaws and all. The peace you seek isn't in the applause of others. It's in the quiet moments when you can look in the mirror and say, "I didn't betray myself today." That's the kind of approval that lasts, because when you're anchored in your own values, no amount of external validation can shake you. You are rooted in your truth, and that's the only approval you need. And once you found that, you realize that the approval of others was never the thing that truly mattered. It's your own integrity that holds the most power. You've heard it before. Detach from outcomes. Stop caring what others think. But it's easier said than done, right? The idea of detachment often gets confused with apathy. People think it means you have to stop caring, to shut down emotionally. But detachment isn't about abandoning your feelings. It's about gaining clarity. It's not about closing yourself off, but opening yourself to the freedom of being unaffected by the opinions of others. True detachment means understanding that your worth isn't determined by anyone but yourself. You don't need to perform, to please, or to chase validation. Instead, you simply need to show up, fully, as you are, without apology. The Stoics often spoke about detachment, but they didn't mean turning into emotionless robots. Marcus Aurelius, for example, said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." This speaks to the power of self-definition, of showing up as yourself, free from the need for external validation. True detachment is not the avoidance of relationships or the withdrawal from emotional investment. It's the recognition that no matter how much you give of yourself to the world, you must always be anchored in your own sense of value. It's easy to confuse detachment with being cold or indifferent, but the truth is, detachment is rooted in strength. When you stop depending on others for your self-worth, you unlock a level of inner peace that can't be shaken by outside forces. It's like standing in the middle of a storm, but remaining unmoved. Life can be unpredictable. People can be unpredictable. But your center, your sense of who you are, doesn't have to be. You don't need others to validate your existence, to reassure you that you're on the right path. Once you realize this, once you understand that your value is not for sale, you can walk through the world with a sense of power that comes from deep within. Detachment is the freedom to be yourself in any room, to stop shrinking or performing for approval. It's not about trying to impress people. It's not about playing a part or wearing a mask. It's about existing fully in the present moment. When you walk into a room with the understanding that you are enough as you are, without needing to change anything about yourself, you stop looking for confirmation from others. You stop letting their approval or disapproval dictate your emotions. And in that freedom, you find your true power. There is nothing more liberating than simply existing, without the need to impress, without the need to earn your worth from others. Detachment doesn't mean cutting yourself off from the world. It means being able to engage with the world without losing yourself in it. It's about standing in your truth, even when the world around you is in chaos. It's about being able to love, to give, and to care, but without the need to control how others respond to your love. It's about knowing that you can give your all without expecting anything in return. Because ultimately, the most valuable thing you can give is your authenticity. And when you're detached from the need to be validated, your authenticity flows naturally, unencumbered by fear or expectation. What happens when you live with this kind of detachment is that you become a magnet for respect. Not because you demand it, but because you simply live in your own power. You stop chasing people, you stop trying to fit in, and you stop giving away pieces of yourself to gain approval. Instead, you walk into every situation with the quiet confidence that you are already enough. People can sense that. They can feel when someone is comfortable in their own skin, when someone doesn't need anything from them in order to feel complete. This is not arrogance, it's the power of being fully detached from the need for approval. The true power of detachment comes when you stop seeing yourself through the eyes of others. When you stop depending on someone else's opinion to define your self-worth, you create space to connect to something deeper within you. You begin to trust yourself more. You begin to listen to your own voice instead of being swayed by the noise of the world around you. And when you are grounded in that sense of self, nothing can shake you. You are rooted in your own truth, and that is a power no one can take from you. Think about the moments when you felt the most at peace, the most confident. Were they the moments when you were seeking approval or chasing validation? Or were they the moments when you stood in your own power, fully comfortable with who you are, not needing anyone else to confirm your worth? That is the essence of detachment. It's not about cutting yourself off or withdrawing from the world. It's about choosing to stand firmly in your own sense of self, without the need for anyone else to define you. It's about living in alignment with your own values and beliefs, without constantly questioning whether others approve of you. In a world that constantly bombards us with messages telling us how to be, how to act, and who to impress, detachment is a powerful act of rebellion. It's a declaration that you are enough as you are, that your worth isn't tied to anyone's opinion, and that you can walk through life fully present without the burden of trying to impress anyone. When you live from this place of detachment, you stop seeking to fit in, and instead, you start living to stand out. Not because you're trying to be different, but because you are no longer afraid to simply be yourself. True detachment is the gateway to inner peace and authentic power. It's the freedom to show up in the world as you are, without needing anyone's approval to validate your existence. It's not about not caring, it's about caring for yourself enough to stop seeking validation from outside sources. When you master this, when you learn to walk through life without shrinking, without performing, you'll realize that the greatest gift you can give the world is your authentic, unapologetic self. And that's the power of detachment. Setting a boundary isn't rude, it's honest. Think about that for a moment. Society has conditioned us to believe that saying no is an offense, that drawing lines is somehow selfish. We've been taught to keep the peace, to accommodate, to always be the bigger person. But at what cost? At the expense of our own needs, our own well-being. It's easy to overlook how much we compromise for the sake of others. The problem is that when you compromise too much, you lose sight of who you are. You begin to bend, to stretch, to please, until one day you don't even recognize yourself anymore. Boundaries are your declaration of self-respect. They are not walls. They are the gates that allow you to protect your time, your energy, your peace. But how can you become who you truly are if you're constantly saying yes when every fiber of your being wants to say no? When you fail to establish boundaries, you forfeit your personal sovereignty. You lose the right to decide what matters most. Instead, you let the needs and expectations of others take precedence over your own. This kind of self-abandonment isn't selflessness, it's a path to resentment. It's a surrender of your most precious resources, your time and energy. And when you don't protect those, you begin to wonder why you feel drained, disconnected, and perhaps even lost. Boundaries are not a defense mechanism. They are not about pushing others away or keeping them at arm's length. In fact, when you set a boundary, you're inviting clarity into your life. You're telling others what you can and cannot tolerate, what you are and are not willing to accept. This isn't about controlling others. It's about taking control of your own life. It's about saying, I know what I need. I know what I can offer, and I know where I need to draw the line to maintain my peace and integrity. And in doing that, you give others the opportunity to respect you. Those who truly care for you will understand. They won't feel threatened by your boundary. They'll see it for what it truly is, a reflection of your values and your worth. Jung also said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Why is that terrifying? Because to accept yourself completely means being fully aware of your needs, your desires, your limits. It means acknowledging that you are not here to please everyone. And when you set a boundary, you are saying, I accept myself, and this is what I require to honor who I am. It's an act of self-love, not selfishness. It's an affirmation that you deserve to have your needs met just as much as anyone else's. So when you say no to a request, you are not rejecting the person. You're simply rejecting what doesn't align with your truth. And that's a powerful statement. It's a statement that says, I am worthy of respect and understanding, and I am not afraid to stand firm in what I need. Boundaries are not about shutting people out. They are a way of inviting healthier, more authentic relationships. Think about it. The people who truly care for you will not be offended by your boundaries. They will respect them because they understand that you're not saying no to them. You're saying yes to yourself. On the other hand, those who are offended by your boundaries are likely people who have been accustomed to taking more than they should. They may have learned to expect you to overextend yourself, to ignore your own needs for their benefit. But when you establish boundaries, you break that pattern. You stop letting people take more than they should, and you stop letting them define your worth. And if they don't respect that, then you've learned something invaluable about the kind of person they are and about the kind of relationships you need to nurture. It's natural to worry about being misunderstood when setting boundaries. After all, we've been taught to be accommodating, to go with the flow. But the truth is, if people misunderstand your boundaries, it's a reflection of their inability or unwillingness to understand your needs. Their reaction is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to honor your own limits. And if someone doesn't understand that, if they feel hurt or rejected by your decision to prioritize your own well-being, then that's something they need to process, not something you need to apologize for. Setting boundaries is not about rejecting people. It's about accepting yourself fully and unapologetically. And this is where the magic happens. Once you start setting boundaries, you begin to attract people who align with your values. You start building relationships with those who respect your needs, who understand that your worth is not contingent on how much you give or how much you sacrifice. These relationships are rooted in mutual respect, not in the imbalanced dynamics of people-pleasing. When you are firm in your boundaries, you become a magnet for people who will honor your space, your energy, and your time. They will be the ones who stay, not because they need something from you, but because they appreciate who you are. And that is the foundation of any healthy, fulfilling relationship. The more you practice setting boundaries, the more you begin to understand their power. You'll see that each boundary you set strengthens your self-respect. You'll notice that the more you say no to things that don't serve you, the more you make space for the things that truly matter, things that nurture your growth, your happiness, and your peace. You'll realize that the more you honor yourself, the more you attract people who will do the same. And ultimately, this is the kind of life we all want, a life where we are surrounded by people who respect us, value us, and understand the importance of boundaries. Setting boundaries isn't always easy. It requires courage, clarity, and the willingness to accept that some people may misunderstand you. But the truth is, anyone who is truly meant to be in your life will respect your boundaries. Those who don't are simply showing you where you need to invest your time and energy more wisely. And as you begin to set those boundaries, you will discover that the more you honor your limits, the more empowered you become. The more you stand firm in your own truth, the stronger your sense of self becomes. You stop bending for the sake of others, and you start standing tall in who you are. Boundaries are a declaration of your worth. They are a testament to your commitment to yourself. And when you live with that kind of integrity, The people who truly value you will be the ones who stay, while everyone else fades away. There's a quiet power in silence. We live in a world that constantly demands our voices, our opinions, our explanations. But what if the strongest thing you could do is simply not speak? What if, instead of rushing to justify your decisions or argue your point, you allowed silence to take its place? Too often we feel the need to fill the gaps with words, to explain ourselves, to make others understand us. But in doing so, we give away our power. We hand over control to others by letting them determine how we should speak, how we should be understood. When you stand in your truth, when you are aligned with who don't need to defend your truth is yours alone. It doesn't need to be made smaller or more palatable for anyone. The moment you stop defending it is the moment you start truly standing in it. There is strength in silence, an undeniable power that comes from standing firm in who you are without needing to explain, without needing anyone's approval. It's in those moments when you choose not to speak, not because you're afraid or unsure, but because you simply don't need to. Silence doesn't mean weakness. It means enough has been said. You've made your stance clear, and now it's time to let your actions speak for themselves. When you stop trying to convince the world of your value, when you stop justifying your choices and explaining your boundaries, you free yourself from the burden of external validation. The weight lifts because you no longer need to ask for permission to be yourself. You already are. Think about it. When was the last time you tried to justify your boundaries, your beliefs, your actions? Maybe it was with a friend, a colleague, or even a family member. You found yourself explaining why you couldn't do something, why you had to say no, why your priorities were different. But all you were doing was giving away your power. When you defend your boundaries to others, you let them shape the narrative of your life. You let them dictate whether your choices are valid. Instead, imagine this. What if you stopped explaining yourself altogether? What if you simply stood in your decision, confident in the fact that it was made from a place of clarity and self-respect? What if you stopped asking for validation and started living in the full confidence of your own truth? That is where the real power lies. Jung also said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." Acceptance of yourself means being so deeply aligned with who you are that you no longer feel the need to explain it to anyone. You're not afraid of being misunderstood or judged. You know that your truth is your own, and no one else's opinion can shake it. When you fully accept yourself, you no longer have to argue your worth or defend your decisions. You can stand in silence because you know that silence is not an absence of confidence. It is a signal of strength. It says, "I don't need to fill the space with words. My actions, my choices, my presence speak for themselves." There's a profound freedom in letting go of the need to explain yourself. When you don't have to justify every decision, you create space for something much more valuable, inner peace. Think about it. How exhausting is it to constantly defend your choices, to explain your reasons, to try to make everyone understand you? It's draining. But when you stop trying to explain, you free up that energy for something more important, living authentically. You don't have to convince anyone of your worth because in the end, your worth isn't determined by their approval. It's determined by your own alignment with your values and your truth. It's a simple truth, but it's not always easy to live by. We've been conditioned to think that silence means we're weak or unsure, that we must always speak up, always engage, always be ready to explain ourselves. But the most powerful people are often those who speak the least. They don't need to fill every space with words, and they certainly don't need to defend their choices. They've learned that their actions speak louder than their words, and in silence they maintain a steady, unwavering confidence that doesn't depend on external validation. Silence can be an invitation. When you stop defending yourself, you open the door for others to see you for who you truly are. You invite them to witness your strength, your clarity, your conviction. But the beauty of it is that whether they choose to accept it or not doesn't change your truth. It only becomes more apparent how irrelevant their judgment truly is. Because at the end of the day, their opinion doesn't define your worth. It's how you see yourself that matters. So the next time you're faced with a situation where you feel the urge to explain yourself, to defend your choices, remember this. Silence is not weakness. It's a profound statement of strength. It's a signal that you don't need to justify your truth to anyone. You stand firm in who you are, and in doing so, you invite the world to see you not for the words you speak, but for the life you live. Silence is your strength, your confidence, and your quiet rebellion against a world that demands explanations. Embrace it, stand in it, and watch as your inner power grows. Respect isn't something you ask for, and it's certainly not something you beg for. It's something that you command, but not in the way most people think. It's not about putting on a show or flexing your muscles. It's not about perfecting every aspect of yourself or making sure everyone knows just how capable you are. True respect comes from something deeper. It's the quiet energy that flows from within you, not from anything you try to prove to others. It's not loud or forceful, it's subtle, it's in your presence, it's in the way you carry yourself and the way you treat others. When you live with integrity and clarity, when your actions align with your values, you don't need to demand respect. It's naturally attracted to you. People feel it, even if they can't explain why. Carl Jung said, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart." What he was getting at is that respect starts within. It starts with a deep understanding of who you are and an unwavering commitment to live by your own principles, regardless of how others perceive you. When you do that, respect isn't something you have to ask for. It's something that becomes a natural extension of your character. People notice authenticity even when they don't always acknowledge it. It's not about trying to impress others or be the loudest voice in the room. It's about quietly, steadily being the person you are, grounded, calm, and principled. The world can sometimes be obsessed with loud demonstrations of power, with the flashiness of success and wealth, but those things don't command respect. What commands respect is the way you treat people, the way you handle challenges, and the way you stay true to your values when it's hardest to do so. In those moments, when the world is pulling you in different directions, your stillness, your integrity, and your restraint will speak louder than any words or actions ever could. This doesn't mean you won't encounter people who don't respect you. There will always be those who either don't understand your quiet strength or who are too caught up in their own noise to appreciate it. But here's the truth. The people who don't respect you were never meant to be in your life anyway. The ones who do, the ones who truly see your value, they'll be drawn to you like a magnet. And they won't be the ones to demand things from you or test your limits. They'll recognize the deep well of strength within you, and in that recognition, respect is born. This is the kind of respect that lasts because it's not based on superficial factors, but on something real, something enduring. When you live in alignment with your values, when you act with integrity and clarity, your presence speaks for itself. You don't have to raise your voice, posture yourself, or put on any kind of act. Just your calm, grounded demeanor will communicate far more than any boastful words ever could. Imagine walking into a room and not feeling the need to prove anything, not needing to be the smartest, the funniest, or the most impressive person in the room. Instead, you simply show up as yourself, secure, steady, and unshaken. That's a form of respect that you command effortlessly. The key here is restraint. In a world that celebrates excess, excess of words, excess of power, excess of attention, restraint becomes a radical act. Choosing not to react, not to engage in every petty dispute or battle, is a mark of true strength. This doesn't mean you're weak. It means you've developed the strength to control yourself, to act with purpose rather than being swept away by the whims of others. Restraint is a form of self-mastery. It's not about suppressing your desires or silencing your voice. It's about knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. It's about understanding that your actions speak louder than your words, and that your presence, when it's authentic, is the most powerful form of communication you can have. Jung also said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." When you fully embody your true self, when you stop pretending to be someone you're not, when you stop chasing external validation, you stop needing to demand respect, it naturally flows to you. People will recognize the strength of your character, the steadiness of your spirit, and the integrity of your actions, and in turn, they'll respect you for who you are, not because you've asked for it, but because you've earned it through your consistency and authenticity. This isn't about perfection. Perfection is an illusion, and chasing it only leads to frustration. The goal isn't to be perfect in the eyes of others, but to be aligned with your own values and principles. It's about showing up for yourself first, standing firm in your convictions, and letting that quiet strength radiate outward. When you do that, respect comes to you naturally, without you having to chase it. It comes because people recognize that you are grounded in something real, something enduring. At the end of the day, the most important respect you can command is the respect for your own self. If you are not living in alignment with your own values, no amount of external validation will satisfy you. But when you live with integrity, when you make choices based on what you truly believe, and when you let your actions reflect your inner truth, you command respect without ever needing to demand it. And the beauty of this kind of respect is that it doesn't fade. It's not dependent on external circumstances or the opinions of others. It's grounded in something far deeper, in who you are at your core. So, stop chasing approval. Stop seeking validation from others. Live in alignment with your truth and let your actions speak for themselves. Command respect not through force, but through the quiet strength of your presence. When you do that, you'll find that respect follows you everywhere, not because you've demanded it, but because you've earned it through your authenticity, your integrity, and your restraint. And those who truly understand that will stand with you, while the rest will simply fall away. As you move through your days, remember, your worth isn't determined by the applause of others, but by the quiet, unwavering strength you carry within. Stand firm in who you are, and the world will respect you for it. Thank you for being a part of Stoic Journal. If this resonated with you, I invite you to watch one of the videos on the screen. Keep growing, keep reflecting, and keep living with integrity.